Samuel, okay.
All right, so they're going to have a lot of poke damage here, a lot of disengage with that lance and the ability to kite backwards. Cloud9, maybe they go for some more siege breaking. You've already got the glaive. He can punch through those defenses potentially.
Yeah, they need someone that can go in hard. So Taka might be a good option here with support glaive, or CP the glaive and do a weapon Vox with an Arden here. That'll be a good option. Finn is also strong because Finn can body block all of the Samuel, Malice, and Verdict,
back when Samuel was getting played a ton, it was actually Finn. It turned out to be like one of the big counters to him because you just
stack shield.
Yep, just buy. I mean, we saw it with like Fountain, then an Aegis, and then another piece of shield just to block out all that damage. So Finn could work really well here. Catherine could work as well.
Given Joseph's hero pool, I think they're going to probably go with the jungle glaive, and then they're going to pick a support like Arden or Finn here would be pretty good.
Could you not
or Cat.
support
They
Catherine?
might even go Cat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Cat makes sense because Gabe can carry on Cat, and it's into a Kestrel and a Samuel. Oh, Fortress.
Okay. I mean, this can certainly work really nicely. They've got a great dive composition. I feel like the win conditions on which I'm going to ask you about are fairly clear on Cloud9.
Yeah, get the Fortress speed perk, get Glaive in there, Afterburn Samuel or Kestrel into Vox, and it's going to be GG there. However, Lance, how TSM needs to win this is they need to...
Are they going to win? We'll have to wait and find out. Or can Cloud9 topple the giants of North America?
Yeah, a super long-range game plan from TSM, though. You know, you want to be playing from the absolute maximum distance, putting pressure on Fortress and Glaive. Again, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because when you play against the Fortress, one of the best ways to play into him is playing a team that can be super aggressive against the Fortress. And if you force Fortress on the back foot, you know how difficult it is for Fortress to deal with that. Not appealing captain, very much designed to aid his team going in. And when you combat that with the Glaive, kind of have someone that can follow you into the very depths of hell. And you can see Glaive is wearing the skin that is appropriate for that statement.
Oh, Old School does get rooted. He's going to have to back off here. Von C chasing up a lot of damage. This could be first blood for TSM. Aren't just going to be able to get the damage down. I love Joseph was looking for something a little there, but TSM still firmly on the aggression.
Great body blocking from Gabe there, just taking those Malice and Verdicts, bodyguarding Old School so that he could escape in that situation. But TSM going to try and shove the wave here. Don't know how much Old School will lose, if anything at all, to be honest. He should get back in time, but they definitely tried to put pressure on by shoving that wave early. Good idea by TSM early on there, but again, aggression comes out from these guys super quickly. Von C actually realizing that Old School, or rather, sorry, I Love Joseph could put pressure on his jungle, so he has gone for a early light armor just to make sure he can try and defend as much against that afterburn that can put real spanners in the works for TSM. He's now going to be maybe contesting for this Elder Treant in mid. A lot of scenes. You know, they've got a great early game jungler, they've got great ganking potential, the single target damage is very high. It's kind of what you want here from C9. My issue is that with when the Vox comes out, they've only got the Glaive to be able to, I guess, kite for the Vox, which can be an issue because in the late game, Vox definitely wants to have that breaking point double turrets monocle build, which you'll want to stack up, and doesn't really happen easily for C9 when you haven't really got a great peeling composition. But again, if they have managed to get the advantage and can be aggressive, Vox can just stack up as he is chasing down the enemy team. That's a great position to be in as well.
Yeah, it really is. And I can imagine he's going towards the breaking point with probably the Sorrow Blade being the first of the two items. There's quite a common build we're seeing thus far in NA. And Flash X just getting, you know, a little bit of pressure down in the top side, but Best Chuck NA, you know, you can't push that far forward. This is the second time we've seen him on this Kestrel pick here. Didn't really work out last game, but we'll see if he can make it work thus far.
Doesn't look like he's going towards the Sorrow Blade build here, by the way, Jaws. Which would be in accordance with, I think, the way the composition wants to work. Gives Vox an earlier spike. The problem with the Breaking Point Double Turrets monocle build is you kind of need Breaking Point Double Turrets monocle. Whoa, okay, second.
Okay, he's all good.
Yeah, he's all good. the problem with the Breaking Point double Tyrants monocle build is you need that build specifically. You need those 3 items before you actually really start to get the maximum effectiveness out of it. With the Sora Blade build, once you get Sora Blade, that's a pretty decent item spike in itself. You get a pretty huge damage boost from that. So that kind of goes in accordance with what we're seeing here from C9. Obviously, it's not Weapon Power Glaive. I did say Weapon Power Glaive because I saw the Weapon Blades, but I didn't actually think about what I was saying. And it's going to be that cooldown reduction Glaive, which obviously is going to be the Storm Crown and the Aftershock. Very, very good against the likes of Samuel and against the likes of Kestrel, because that Afterburn will be on such a short cooldown that you'll be able to just consistently apply pressure with your afterburns, consistently look to reposition them as they are kiting. That could be a real factor, especially much better at appealing as well for the Vox. If you're able to consistently afterburn for Vox and knock a threat away from him, makes it very easy for him to stack up if he does get a breaking point into his build, which he has, actually. Hasn't gone for the Sora Blade. Gone for the breaking point instead. Might actually see the double Tyrants monocle build here. I got baited by the 6 sins, although I shouldn't have done, because some Voxes do actually build 6 sins and then later build that into a Tyrants monocle, just for the earlier weapon damage output. So I got a little bit baited there, but it is going to be the classic Vox build coming through.
Yeah, a little bit debated, but you're all good. Joseph has he's picked up a Storm Crown, so he's going to be farming up a Storm. And we can see Von C. Von C did have a level lead ever so slightly there as well. Hasn't actually picked up a tier 3, although tell a lie, just picked up his Frostburn as well as Best Chuck NA. He's going to pick up his Sorrow Blade. So nice little power spikes coming through for both teams at this current time. 6 minutes 45 seconds is on the clock right now, with a kill in TSM's favour. Not really much happening at this moment. I mean, we've seen TSM time and time again methodically close games out, but they haven't got the early lead that they normally use to do that with.
No, I mean, obviously, it's been a very close series. Both teams, you did say, going toe-to-toe here. You definitely feel like C9 have matched TSM. I take back the statement that I said in the first game where I felt like TSM were unmatched. And, you know, I'm going to stand by the fact that they dominated C9 in the first game, because they did. That was a dominant performance. But C9 came back in the second game. They played incredibly well, found some of TSM's weaknesses and really exploited them. And I think these two teams are very evenly matched here. Despite TSM having an excellent first win, C9 leveling up the series shows that they are so close right now. On this current weekend of the VG8, both teams playing to their absolute maximum. And remember, you know, you'll really want to go into this split with the maximum amount of points possible. You want to be able to skip that first day of the live championships, have a rest, see how the other teams play. It's really important to squeeze out every point that you can, as well as having the prestige of winning the last VG8 weekend of the spring split. So obviously both teams going to be really battling hard for this win.
I mean, history would tell that TSM are going to be the winners, but Cloud9 really putting up a fight in this best of 3. Not as quite as a dominant game as TSM had in game number 1, but that they executed their comp absolutely stupendously in game number 2, and I want to see if they can do that again here. And I really do like this Fortress pick, just to try and corral Best Chuck NA and Von C into just, letting Old School at least just deal a lot of that damage and upfront damage as well, because that double Tyrants monocle with the breaking point build, when it stacks up, it really just does so much work.
I don't think there's that much of an issue for TSM not having an early lead here, though, because Weapon Power Kestrel, once she gets to 3 or 4 items, becomes very strong as well. Kind of can match Vox. You got a range advantage over him. The Glimmer shots really start to hurt when you get the critical strike built up as well. So don't think there's too much of an issue with TSM not being completely dominant here, but both teams, I think, function fairly well in the late game too. So this is going to be a very mechanically intensive series. Ooh, Gabe Bizzle just escaping the Githian wall there.
Yeah, so close. And Flash X, we've seen him do it already. He's gone for that really predictive impale, and only just working out this time. I love Joseph is off to the sidelines here, so Cloud9 are reconvening up in this lane. TSM looking to try and do something here, putting a lot of pressure down on this turret, and that's the name of the game right now. Just pressure out your opponent, be able to just chunk that turret down bit by bit, because like you mentioned earlier today, Samuel just so good at doing just that.
Yeah, Samuel very good at pressuring early on. Looks like TSM. Oh, Oblivion.
Oh, wow. That was a very nicely timed reflex bolt there from Old School. Oblivion and Impale just going wide.
Yeah, Very, very close. And now C9 looking for the counter engage. Flash X
Triple
away.
Githian wall. Von C's on the wrong side of this fight completely. Old School's going to be able to chase him off here, but the Maleficent Verdict is going to heal him up. I Love Joseph is the one to keep your eye on as he does force one out the fight, and Best Chuck NA is going to fall as well. Von C was completely displaced in that fight, and Cloud9 really brung it to TSM there. They are going to finally take out Von C in the end. Does block another afterburn, but ends up falling. And Flash X, only member left alive for TSM.
TSM felt super disconnected in that fight. No one really on the same page. Von C made the exit through the mustache brush. It was the correct decision to go that way, but didn't quite rejoin the fight. Flash X left stranded in no man's land, and unfortunately Best Chuck NA was a little bit too far out the way to be able to have an impact. Yeah, he felt like damage was super disconnected there. No one really on the same page, because if they'd collapsed and tried to put pressure on Old School immediately, they might have actually found an attempt to win that fight. But I've got to say, C9 executed incredibly well, and you're starting to see this cooldown reduction CP Glaive coming into its own versus a double kite composition who kind of rely on their ability to outpace a melee threat. When you've got a cooldown reduction CP Glaive, it is very difficult to outpace him. Gets afterburn off cooldown so quickly that he's constantly keeping up with you as you're trying to kite backwards. So I definitely think this pick is good for I Love Joseph. He's executing it very well.
Yeah, he got two massive ones off in that fight, and the one big one is just to knock Von C out of the rest of TSM and just making sure he was isolated the entirety, and then they just cleaned up the fight, and it was very well executed. Their comp is definitely working out so far. Okay, Vizzle trying to get a little bit of aggression here, but I Love Joseph yet again spotting these. Attack of the back is going to get popped as well. Von C's going to get jumped on once more. Fountain's going to keep him alive for now, but Von C yet again, he's afterburning in. Von C doesn't end up falling, only just there, ends up going down, and that will be Flash X falling as well as Best Chuck NA. Cloud9 pick up the ace with such a decisive team fight.
Absolutely monstrous from I Love Joseph, consistently throwing Von C and Best Chuck into the gauntlet. And I don't mean Arden's gauntlet, I mean the literal gauntlet of damage that C9 have right now. And actually, Von C, he really needs that Eve of Harvest to be able to sustain. You think a couple of Malice and Verdicts, he might be able to find himself in a more defensive position, but right now, I Love Joseph, very low cooldown on the afterburn, consistently able to reposition Von C, consistently putting him the harm's way of Old School, and no one is threatening Old School because TSM are so preoccupied with trying to kite against this glaive, trying to keep themselves safe as a unit, that they actually have no time to deal with Old School. And unless Flash X can actually hit Old School with an Impale, I don't know if there is any way, pending a really audacious Best Chuck NA active camo into the back line, I don't know if there is any way for them to touch Old School in these team fights because of how much of a threat Gabe Vizzle and I Love Joseph are being. This is how you play Fortress Glaive, ladies and gentlemen. You be super aggressive, you be super forward facing, you ask the questions, and TSM right now don't have the answers.
No, they do not, and I gotta say, I think it's down to this cooldown as well. Just the amount of afterburns he's getting off in these fights, they can be that aggressive. He's not afterburning in, having to wait like 10 to 14 seconds. He's getting afterburn after afterburn, 2, 3, sometimes 3 in fights. Like, that's how ridiculous this cooldown build actually is. TSM looking a bit lost right now. They're 5k in a deficit in terms of gold. And their Crystal Century not been touched just yet, but Cloud9, they're pushing ever greater into TSM's jungle.
Yeah, they can capitalize by just controlling this neutral gold mine as well. Again, you can see they've got that first turret in the game. They can start to put pressure, clear vision, take Crystal Sentry. I don't know, TSM, they classically, last year, we'd always say TSM is so good at coming back. In fact, I think Jackson always used to call it the TSM special. Whenever a team came back from a huge deficit and found a win, they'd always say TSM special, TSM special. Well, we haven't really seen TSM have to do that for the last sort of 5 months. TSM have always been the team that have been commanding and in the lead. And very rarely have we seen TSM have to fight against a massive deficit and find their way back into the game. They're going to have to do the old school, and I don't mean a pun because Old School's in the game, the literal Old School TSM special. They're going to have to find a way back from a deficit to win out this series and win the week in VG8. But Cloud9 right now, they are hungry for this week's win. They played a game in the first game which wasn't great. They really got punished and pressured by TSM, but from game 2 onwards, they have looked a different beast, and they're looking very good.
They have indeed. FlashX tried to find Old School there. Old School took a lot of damage from that Crystal Sentry, but the Impale, the Githium Wall, they just did not connect, so no follow-up from TSM was found for a Ford, and that will mean Cloud9 are going to secure the Crystal Sentry, and they are going to head towards the lane as well. Monocle has been finished now for Best Chuck, so he's going to really start to hurt Sorrowblade, Breaking Point, and the Monocle. The problem is, Old School's reached that point already. Double Monocle with the Breaking Point. He's got Aegis as well. They're going to start up the Kraken. Cloud9, I think Scoundrel, TSM are not going to finish first this week.
I mean, it's definitely a threat. You do have to keep an eye on Best Chuck. If he gets 4 items on this Weapon Power Kestrel, he will be a damage threat in his own right. And again, like I said, there is comeback mechanics for TSM. We have seen them do it in the past. Just not so recently, that's the issue. It's been a very long time since we've had to see TSM claw back a victory. But again, at this point, they are now 6k gold down. It is looking glum for them. They do have going against a composition where it's very difficult for them to actually kite. Realistically, you think that FlashX has to be getting Githian walls on afterburns to actually give TSM a safe position to teamfight with, but that's very difficult to do. Super difficult to do. I Love Joseph and Gabe Vizzle now. They are hunting for their prey of TSM, in which the trophy is first place of the VG8. Here we go.
Well, the trophy was Best Chuck, and he does manage to get out, in fact. Attack of the Pup did get popped as well. That turret is going to fall. That Kraken doing a lot of work in the lane. TSM, they need to be able to take this out ASAP. Old School's going to do a lot of damage to those turrets. Nice reposition there from I Love Joseph. They're just going to let the Kraken take 2 of these turrets without too much of a problem. Cloud9 are going to back off. Definitely worth in their book, because they are going to get the Crystal Sentry as well. And that will be it being eliminated off the map. So that will mean Cloud9 have now a dominant and leading position coming against TSM.
Yeah, absolutely. C9 in a completely dominant position, have looked so good over these last 2 games. I criticized them in the first game. I think TSM had all of their cards. They showed all the trumps, but at this point now, C9, they've played so good from game 2 onwards, and this game has been a pure masterclass of countering what TSM have brought to the table. I Love Joseph has been fantastic on this glaive. Old School, obviously, been able to just completely free stack in these team fights, almost untouched, because TSM have no way of getting to him on the backline. TSM have no way of actually posing a significant threat to a backline Vox. It's been absolute pleasure to watch for Cloud9. In fact, everything from Cloud9 today has been good. We praised Gabe Vizzle so much in his first series because of his play on Lance, and rightly so. The guy played like a monster. And now C9 potentially going to beat the best team in North America and take that final spot as the winners of the VG8.
They might just do that, and I Love Joseph has found his prey yet again. That fountain's going to keep everybody alive, but the problem is they're all split up. Oblivion comes down. It's not going to matter, though, because Old School cleaning up this fight, cleaning up house, picks up the ace. 2 kills for Old School and 1 kill for Gabe Vizzle. I think they might have done it. Cloud9, 18 minutes, and that will be a long death time and a long time to wait to try and defend their base. Cloud9, they will take first place in week number 4, taking down the dominant TSM.
Cloud9, take your place at the top of the VG8 in North America. You deserve